Hello everyone, we hope you're all doing well. Welcome to one more video presented to you by Insights IAS team as part of your InstaEthics GS4 initiative. In today's video, we will pick up from where we left off. Today we will discuss human values, lessons from the lives and teachings of great philosophers. Now philosophy, the term philosophy is something that you already have come across in your life. When I ask you what is philosophy, you might say that philosophy is something that gives you a direction on how to go about things. If I ask you what is a philosophy for a UPSC aspirant to be successful, you might give me so many answers. But the main philosophy that has worked out for all the rank holders is reading, revising and practicing as much as possible. You might have come across certain philosophies such as if you want others to be good to you, you have to be good to others. Various religions have their own philosophies. Love your neighbor. This is one of the major philosophies that we have in the religion of Christianity. All religions have such philosophies which basically tell you what you need to do, how you need to go about your life. Some people also tend to associate philosophy to be quite abstract in nature. What is this abstract? It does not give you the direct answer. It does not tell you everything about something in a 100% of a manner. Abstract. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. But in abstract philosophies, that 1 plus 1, what it is, it could be multiple infinite things. People tend to associate philosophy in that particular fashion as well. Now, why is UPSC making you read this philosophy which has that abstract nature? Whenever I look at some of the answers, whenever I have discussions with people on this particular subject, they tend to give abstract philosophies. They tend to give abstract answers. That is something that you should avoid. I'm bringing this up in the beginning of the video itself. When you're reading about various philosophies, be it Western philosophy or Indian philosophy, you should always think how you can apply that philosophy to what is happening in the present scenario. I will be teaching you that by taking concrete examples. The only thing that I want from your end is whenever you're reading philosophy, make sure that you understand it. Make sure that when you are applying it in your answers, be it in section A or be it in section B, it doesn't come across as abstract. That is the only advice and request we have from our side. Let us start our discussion now. Let us first understand how philosophy originated. Now, when you look at this term philosophy, it is nothing but an amalgamation of two Greek words, philion and sophia. Both together means lover of wisdom. Lover of wisdom. Now, when did this philosophy start? No one can exactly pinpoint and say that philosophy started at this particular point in time when we go back to ancient history. No one can do that, even though many attempts were made. But nevertheless, in the last video also we started with certain Greek philosophers. In today's video also we will start understanding what they have spoken about philosophy. Now, when man was born, he was surprised, he was perplexed about the world which was around him. He did not have so much of idea. When he saw something, he felt wondrous. He used to wonder why exactly it is the way it is, the nature, why sun behaves the way it behaves. How should a human being behave? What is the purpose of life? He started wondering about all these things. What Plato says is, at the core of philosophy, at the root of this philosophy is this wonder concept. Whenever that wonder comes into the element, that is when philosophy starts. Wonder is the only beginning of philosophy. That is what Plato says. His successor, Aristotle, what does he say about this? He also talks about this wonder only. It is owing to their wonder that men both now began and at first began to philosophize. What this basically means? Aristotle is saying once a person is perplexed, once he starts wondering things, that is what it gives him the necessary push to try to come to answers, to try to understand what is happening in and around him, and then come up with his own philosophy to explain things which are happening in and around him. That is about it. Right? This is what is the root of philosophy as per Plato and Aristotle. Now, in this video, we will be just focusing on certain Indian philosophies and their application. When it comes to Western philosophies, Western thinkers, we will be picking that up at a later point in our discussion. Okay, in another video. Right? Now you know what is philosophy. It is nothing but an amalgamation of two Greek words. It means lover of wisdom. How does philosophy comes into the picture? Whenever a person wonders why and what and how things are, whenever he starts to think about these things and explain these things by applying whatever knowledge he has gained, and he comes up with a solution of his own, with his understanding of his own, that is what philosophy means. Right? Now, since you have understood the concept, let me just give you a proper definition that you can use in your UPSC Mains examination. Philosophy is a way of thinking. Alright? Thinking about certain subject such as ethics, thought, existence, time, meaning and value. Basically everything. Alright? The way of thinking, this way of thinking involves 4 R's. What are these 4 R's? Responsiveness, reflection, reason and re-evaluation. Here, I am just going to take a minute and tell you or give you a framework on how you can go about for some of your case study questions. In your case study question, what is one of the basic sub-question asked? What will be your course of action? So whenever you're talking about course of action, I've given you one paradigm already. We have done one video. When you're justifying your course of action, I've told you before, you can take the help of the philosophies that are there. It could be Gandhian philosophy, it could be Buddha's philosophy, so many and so on. When you're trying to justify your course of action, you can depend on this 4R. I'm going for this particular option because it is responsive, alright, to a particular situation. It is responding to a particular situation in a good manner. I'm taking this particular course of action because I have reflected on multiple options available, and this is the option that causes least harm. Reasoning both from an intellectual perspective, both from an objective as well as a subjective perspective, right? And finally, re-evaluation. Trying to question ourselves, and once we question ourselves, still if we come across that this is the best possible option, that is what we will go with. So why am I choosing this course of action? Because it reflects responsiveness, it reflects reflection, reasoning and re-evaluation, right? 4 R's, something that you can use in your framework for answering case study questions as well. Moving on. Philosophy, what is the aim of philosophy? To deepen understanding of what is happening around us. The hope is that by doing philosophy, we learn to think better, to act more wisely, and thereby help to improve the quality of our life. Now, this is the main demand that UPSC wants you to meet when you're reading philosophy, when you're applying that philosophy. Whatever philosophies that you have read, at the end of the day, you should be able to apply them in a manner which will increase the quality of the people whom you are serving. That is about it, right? So whenever you're reading a question, ask yourself, which is the philosophy which will increase the quality of people, and apply that philosophy. All right? Moving on. I hope you have understood this. You can use this definition in your section A introduction if you want for any question which talks about philosophy, my friends. Moving on. I just want to apply whatever we have studied by taking one example of Gautama Buddha. Whatever examples that I have taken, most of these examples is something that you will find in your UPSC GS1, GS2 and your GS3 papers. What UPSC wants is whatever you read in these papers, you should be able to look at them from an ethical perspective and apply them as much as possible in your GS4 paper. Gautama Buddha, he lived, when he was born, he was confined to live in his palace. That natural wonder in him was something which was not there. But once he was old enough, once he went out of the palace and he came across certain things, be it a person who was suffering from disease, be it a dead body, a beggar, and finally a monk who had a smile, who had that serene sense of calmness on his face. That created that wonder in him. What is the purpose of life? That made him to give up his palace life, noble life, and take up the life of an ascetic. And you all know what that path led to. It led to the establishment of Buddhism as a philosophy. There are many doctrines related to Buddhism. One of the doctrines that you have read about in your ancient and medieval classes or even in your art and culture, I'll just take that as an example. That is Shunya Vada. What is this Shunya Vada? Gautama Buddha says the world is full of misery. This is one part of your Four Noble Truths. What is the reason of this misery as per Gautama Buddha? It is very simple, my friends. It is desire. We associate some value to all the subjects, all the objects, some people, relationships. We assign it certain value. This assigning of value is based on how badly we want it, how desirous it is for us. Is it not? And if we are not able to meet what we are expecting, that is when we start to experience pain. That is when we start to experience misery. So what he says in this doctrine of Shunyavada is, don't assign any value. Let it be zero. When you are not assigning any value, that is when the whole concept of meeting pain or misery, when you don't meet the expectations, it will never arise, right? Is it not? I hope you're understanding. When you don't assign any value to an object or a relationship or a person, and if they don't meet your expectations, that won't lead to pain or misery. You will have that sense of happiness in your life. Shunyavada. Now all these things seems abstract. I do understand. But you should not apply this abstractism in your answers. I've already told you that. How will this Shunyavada help us in our practical life? We assign values to exams. We assign values to relationships. And if it does not go the way we want, we start to feel pain. It leads to anxiety. It leads to depression. You should never do that. Right? This is where the importance of Shunyavada lies in the present scenario. Do for the sake of doing it. Look for service in it. Don't apply your personal desire, alright, which might lead you to pain or misery. I hope you understood it, right? There is a philosophy and I am applying that philosophy in practical scenarios. The anxiety and depression, it is rising in the present scenario. When we want something badly, let us say I have a car but I'm not happy with the car and I want something much bigger and better one, maybe an Audi or a Mercedes. When I go for that, what happens? Even if I get it, does it create happiness for all the people? It doesn't create happiness, because materialism will be rising. And when I'm pushing on such materialistic goods, the impact it might have on climate change will also be rising. Right? Shunyavada can be an answer for us to lead a minimalistic life. A minimalistic life which will not only be good for us, for individuals, but also for the whole world as such. Right? Philosophies being applied in real life scenarios, practical solutions. Right? Moving on. Now, in this video, we will just be looking into Indian philosophies, alright? Some philosophers. Indian thought has been concerned with various philosophical problems, significant among which are the nature of the world, cosmology, alright? The nature of reality, metaphysics. We have spoken something about it in one of our earlier videos. Logic, the nature of knowledge, ethics, and the philosophy of religion. This is something that we just discussed in a very brief manner by taking the example of the Buddha's doctrine of Shunyavada. Now, over here, you can define the Indian school of philosophy into two. One is Astika, the other one is Nastika. Astika, alright, is a system of Indian philosophy which believes in the authority of Vedas. Nastika are those philosophies which do not believe in the authority of Vedas. What are the various sub-schools we have in Astika? We have Naya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, and Purva Mimamsa. I will not be dealing into all of these philosophies because this is something which is part of your art and culture classes and you might be aware of. How to apply them in the present scenario, that is where you need to think about. Yoga, alright, is something that we need in the present scenario of our life where both physical health and mental health are rapidly decreasing because of our lifestyle in the 21st century. Logic is something, alright, that is emphasized by Vaisheshika, alright, Naya, all these schools, they emphasize the importance of logic. But in reality, when we look at how we are leading our life, we are becoming victims of fake news. Right? This is something that we need to avoid. Philosophy is being applied in real life scenarios, my friends. Please always remember this. Then you have Nastika school of Indian philosophies, and under that you have Buddhism, Jainism. These two concepts are something that UPSC has focused very extensively in both your prelims as well as mains. Be very thorough with these two concepts, my friends. Moving on, you have your Ajivikas and then Charvaka. In Charvaka, you know this is a school which is based on materialism. Any action which creates pleasure for you, the Charvakas believe that that is the action that you need to go for. There is no sense of spirituality in them. They don't believe in any extraterrestrial beings. This is the life. And in this life, you need to take those actions which maximize your pleasure. This Charvaka school of philosophy is similar to one more school of philosophy that you have in Western countries called as hedonism. We'll talk about this at a later point in time. What is one thing that I want from you? If you have ideas about all these schools of philosophies, very good. If you don't have the idea, read up on them and learn how to apply these things to the practical life. Right? Let me just take few philosophers and try to apply their philosophy to the present world. Gandhiji, right? UPSC has asked so many questions every year based on Gandhiji's life, Gandhiji's philosophies. What does Gandhiji say over here? Where there is love, there is life. Now we are living in a world where we are seeing increasing enmity between people living within the country. We are seeing increasing enmity with people across the world. There is a growth of poverty, inequality, and so many other problems. When we look at the solutions, we have multiple programs, we have multiple policies. We won't get into that. What is missing in addressing all these problems at the core is love. You should be able to love even those people who are not your kith and kin. You should be able to love even those people who have different ideologies. That is what Gandhiji taught. When you love them unconditionally, when you are having that conversation with them, that is when you can get together and change things for the better. Love. This is something that we need in our present scenario to fight the growing radicalization in the country. It could be applied even to refugee crisis. When we love, we feel sympathy, compassion, empathy. When we love all people, irrespective whether they belong to our family, irrespective of whether they are from our region, gender, and all these things. When we love, we feel sympathy, care, compassion, empathy for all of them. That is when poverty can be fought. Whatever extra wealth you have, you might give it for charitable purposes, and this could mean the necessary effort required to combat or tackle poverty completely, thereby meeting the sustainable development goal of fighting or ending poverty altogether in this world. Is it not? Right? You have a philosophy given by a major philosopher, and we are applying that to the present issues that we have in our world. Moving on, I have taken one more philosopher, Swami Vivekananda. My friends, due to the paucity of time, I cannot go or dwell deeply into the life of all these philosophers, or I can't talk about all the philosophers. What I want is, from your end, pick out 20 Indian philosophers, learn something of their philosophies, and try to apply their philosophies into what is happening in the world and how their philosophies will improve the quality of life. Right? Please remember that. What Swami Vivekananda has said over here: religion, to help mankind, must be ready and able to help him in whatever condition he is, in servitude or freedom, in the depths of degradation or on the heights of purity. Everywhere, equally, it should be able to come to his head. Religion should be practiced in such a way that whatever philosophies that religion prophesizes, it should not be applied selectively. It should be applied equally to all the people all across the world. That is what religion means. Now, when you look at religion and how it is practiced in the present scenario, it is practiced in a rather narrow manner. Is it not? Religion-based politics is becoming a major feature. All these things, are they good? Religion-based politics? Absolutely not. How to change all these things? The notion on how we understand religion and how we practice religion at the level of common people, if it changes, that is when the vote bank politics, religion-based politics will decline drastically. Okay? Moving on. Just one more thing before I move on, because I can't keep this philosophy with myself. I don't remember the exact quote that Swami Vivekananda gave, but what basically Vivekananda says is, you cannot preach religion to a person who is hungry. And if you're doing so, you're committing a sin. Now, when you look at the present scenario, right, we have so many millions of population in our country living in poverty, abjure poverty. But nevertheless, when you look at the solutions, the policies that we are trying to come up for them, it's quite narrow in nature. What I'm trying to say is, instead of coming together, making policies which will create that qualitatively good life for all the people, you are trying to divide people in the name of religion. Religion should be used to fight poverty, should be used to fight inequality, hunger, and so many other things. But religion is being used to divide people. Never preach a religion to a person who is hungry. And if you're taking the name of religion, it should be for the cause of welfare of not just that one person who is hungry, that he is from your religion or anything like that. All the person who are hungry, irrespective of their religion, should be given emphasis on. Right? This is one point that you can take. Let's discuss some philosophies of Basavanna. What Basavanna has said, quite many things. I'll just pick up on one important thing, that is, work is worship. What this basically means, work is worship. Don't see God in the idols. Don't be pure to God within the confines of a temple. Try to see God in the work that you do. Try to serve God by doing work in an ethical manner. When you do that, that is when you will be serving not just the God, but your brothers and sisters in a good, effective, and in an efficient manner. Alright? Now, if we adopt this philosophy in our life, as a common man, as an administrator, that is when the problems of corruption, right, which is fueled by greed in Indian administration or bureaucracy, will start to come down. Right? This is one more philosophy that you can apply. Like that, there are quite many philosophies of Basavanna that you can apply. Right? Please remember this. Moving on, you have Kabir. Kabir was a major reformer about whom you have read about in your medieval history. I've just taken some of the lines compiled or composed by Kabir, and I'm just going to read it out, the English translation of it. Don't, Kabir, be so proud of your high mansion. One day, you will lie beneath dirt, with grass growing above you. What this basically saying is, don't have ego in your life. Don't be too materialistic, because at the end of the day, everyone, all right, will meet the same fate or destiny. When you realize this truth, that is when you will mingle with all others. That is when you will be humble in life. As an officer, as an IAS officer, this humbleness is very important for you. You guys agree with me or not? Absolutely yes. When you don't have this humbleness, that is when you have the culture of VVIP built into it. Not so long ago, we removed the red beacons from the top of the government vehicles. Removing red beacons in itself is a good policy, it's a good sign. But that in itself will not be sufficient until and unless you remove this ego that is there as an administrator in you. Humbleness. Right? Moving on, Thiruvalluvar. Right? A reformer, a philosopher rather, from Sangam age that you have read about in your ancient and medieval and even in your art and culture classes. What does Thiruvalluvar say? The biggest fool is he who has learned much, taught much, and is still disconnected. Having wisdom, collecting wisdom in itself is not enough. You should be able to apply them, right, in reality. If you don't apply them, if you stay disconnected with the problems of what is happening in and around you, the collective good in the society will never be realized. You are seeing something is going wrong. Speak up about it. If you're part of an administration where a person is taking a decision which is not in the collective welfare of the organization, you should have the courage to speak up. When you have the knowledge, have the courage to speak up. That is what Thiruvalluvar says. When you have the knowledge to help people, help people. When you have the knowledge to change yourself, change yourself. Be the change that you want to see in the world. One more philosophy for you, right? Now, what I want from your side is, I want you to pick 20 philosophers, know about their important philosophies, and try to apply them in the present practical scenario where their philosophies will act as a solution, thereby improving the quality of life. I hope you have understood the demand of the UPSC. Once you have understood the demand of the UPSC, 90% of your work is done, my friends. The 10% is just gathering content and applying it in the way that UPSC asks for. What are the important philosophers and philosophies that you believe in? If you have time, do let us know in the comment section. Alright? Thank you for your time. I hope this was useful for you. We'll come back soon with the next edition of InstaEthics video. Take care of yourself.